Okay, everyone, I think we've waited for most people to join now, so we'll go ahead and start the session. Hi, everyone. I'm Ellen Morrison. I'm part of the Commission on Social Security, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's session. And thank you all very much for joining. Just 1 second, just some practical points first. If you have any issues accessing today's session, please let us know in the chat box or email Michael Orton via the email address that you booked a place at for this event. We are balancing the needs of various impairments today, so we have kept the chat box open, but we would ask that you try and limit it to questions and comments within the chat box, as it isn't accessible to everyone. If you have any questions about the proposals we're discussing today, please put them in the Q&A box within the Zoom chat. And for anyone watching the live stream, please feel free to post any questions in the comments there. So today's session is part of London Challenge Poverty Week. So many thanks to them for including us as part of their programme. London Challenge Poverty Week started on Monday and runs through to the 17th of October. And we're really grateful for their support with today's session. And of course, thanks to Trust for London, who fund the Commission project, and without who none of this would be possible. And of course, thanks to everyone that's here. We're really pleased to have so many of you join us. One of the things that we found so positive about today's event and previous events and workshops is the breadth of people joining us. There are experts by experience, there are claimants, there are disabled activists, disabled people. We've got advice workers, people from charities, and we've got academics and people from a range of organisations. And I think I can speak for all commissioners in saying we're very proud of creating that diverse network. And we should probably add that we were anticipating maybe 24 people to share our proposals for an improved social security system with. And I think we had 200 people book, which really took us aback. And in the course of a week or so, we've tried to shape an online event for this size. But if anything doesn't go smoothly today, we hope that you'll bear with us. We are a user-led project with a small access budget, and we're attempting our first ever hybrid session today, as some of our commissioners are here in person to present our ideas. So today's going to be pretty informal. Some of you may have been to the previous public consultation launch event we held last year, where we had poetry, guest contributions, video clips, or the year before, where we had a legislative theatre event with community actors, audience participation, and all sorts. Today is much more low-key, but still exciting, as we're unveiling our final proposals for a new social security system. These ideas have come up through experts by experience and stood the test of consultation and come out as the strongest ideas for a system that actually works for those of us who use it. And we're really happy to take this opportunity to do this event as part of London Challenge Poverty Week, as we finalised these proposals a matter of weeks ago, and we'd be really grateful to get your comments and questions ahead of a larger formal launch event later in the year. And for anyone who has attended some of our workshops or sessions before, you'll know that we're focused on solutions. All of us involved in the Commission have lived experience of the benefit system. We know how it's failing. And through our consultation, where thousands of people fed in their thoughts, there is only consensus that the current system causes immense harm. We want to be able to present a vision for what we'd do differently, something concrete we can explain as the alternative in discussions around social security. And in the recent context, this couldn't be more needed. The cut to universal credit uplift, the failure to extend that uplift to legacy benefits during the pandemic, the increase in energy bills, food prices going up, all of this hits people who rely on social security the most. And that's why when we demand that things have to change, whether that's in meetings, in protests, in social media posts, we want to do this alongside a vision for what we want instead. So there's one big question we want to put to you today. Are these proposals significantly better than the current system? We've learned that there is no perfect system. There is no system that will cover every individual circumstance. So we're not seeking perfection, nor are we trying to cover every possible point. But it is possible to have a better system than currently. So that's our big question. Are these proposals significantly better than the current system? So there's going to be three parts to this session. First, we'll explain a bit about the Commission and the work we've done to get us to this point. Second, we'll go through our key policy proposals, and then we're going to take a short break, and it's over to you for questions and comments. And for the questions, as I mentioned before, please post in the Q&A box or the chat box, or email Michael Orton on the email that you booked your place at, whichever option suits you the most. That's definitely enough from me now, and we're going to go to Osmond, who's going to tell us a bit about the Commission's work.
Well, hello, my name is Osmond, and I am, which is an expert by experience, aka a benefit recipient. We all know that the current welfare benefits are failing, but there is no agreement about what should be done to improve things. The Commission on Social Security is a project that was set up to identify what would be a better system. There is a lot of information on our website you can look at, so I just want to highlight some key points. Most importantly, the project is led by experts by experience. That means me and all the other commissioners have lived in experience of the social security system. We come from a range of user-led and claimant group and deaf and disabled people's organisations. We have a support team who are also involved today. One of our team has been trying to build consensus. One of our aims, rather, has been to try to build consensus. So we haven't sat locked away in a room just coming out with our own ideas and ignoring everyone else. Instead, we have made big efforts to include as many people as possible in the process. Back in 2019, we issued a call for solutions asking people to send us ideas and suggestions. From that, we identified draft proposals. The last year, we undertook a major public consultation on those draft proposals. We ran 20 different events and got over 1,000 responses. We've gone through all those responses, so today we can preview our final proposals for a new social security system. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Osmond. And if you can all bear with us as we're changing between speakers. As I said, we're trialing hybrid at the moment, and we've temporarily lost one of our speakers. So we might come back to our speaker, Latoya, who's going to talk about the key principles that underpin our proposals. But at the moment, we're going to go to Barry, who's going to talk about equality.
My name is Barry McDonald, and I'm one of the commissioners, and I'm going to be talking about the equality that's run through the commission's work, and what we've been doing around making sure we're following equality and making it accessible for all. So the equality is very important to treated unfairly by the current system. So disabled people and those with long-term health conditions, health issues, have been badly affected by recent changes. The deaf community should be recognised as its own group. There needs to be awareness of different types of impairments. That's it, guys.
Sorry about that, everyone. I'm going to go over the final points for equality. So women have been unfairly affected by cuts to social security because of their lower income and caring responsibilities. Racialized groups suffer discrimination and inequality. Some groups are more likely to be on low incomes, so can be unfairly affected by changes to the system. And carers save society billions of pounds a year while many struggle financially. And the Commission also wants to highlight other groups who can face unfair treatment in the social security system and may need specific support. And these include members of the LGBT+ community, gypsies and travellers, and prisoners and their families. Now, I think we've got some really good news, which is our Commissioner Latoya is back and managed to join the meeting, and she's going to talk to us about the key principles that underpin our proposals for an improved social security system. Hopefully, if everything works smoothly.
So hi everybody, I'm Latoya, as I've mentioned, and I'm part of the commissioning group. We all have lived experience of being involved in the benefit system and claiming benefits, and so we know that it's quite problematic. So the project was launched in 2019. Again, we've all have experience, and we came up with ideas. We asked people for how they felt about it and came up with 5 principles and what people would like to have within a new benefit system. So the first point is that everybody should have enough money to live on and be able to support themselves and their families and have their rights met. There should also, people should be treated with dignity, and they should be believed and trusted. They should be able to make their own choices. The third principle is about it being a public service, a right. And the system needs to be clear and user-friendly, accessible for all. And it also should be they should listen to people with lived experience and take advice from them. So they're the 5 principles. There should also be, the 5th principle is that there should be free advice, and it should be an accessible system for people to speak up and make complaints if they need to. So thank you for watching me, and I hope that you see what the 5 principles are, and that we've come up with a good 5. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Latoya. So now we've gone over the overarching points behind our work. So to kick us off with the detail and the nuts and bolts of our proposals, we're going to start with Sarifa Patel, who's going to explain about carers. Thanks, Sarifa.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarifa Patel. I'm one of the commissioners, expert by experience. I'm a carer of 2 people, so I'm called a sandwich carer. I think carers are a group who are often ignored and treated very poorly by this government, I feel, and especially BME communities, and the inequality that disabled women with hidden disabilities face, who are carers, is really bad. Carers save the government a huge amount of money. Carers UK did a survey, and we save £139 million by caring for people, our loved ones at home. The fact that carers allowance is currently far too low and isn't working is a big, big concern of ours, and Joseph Rowntree are looking into and doing research on that. The fact that the £20 pandemic uplift universal credit was not extended to carers benefit shows how poorly treated carers are. Response range from our public consultation wasn't very significant because it wasn't a very consensus on what to do, because there's more research that needs to be done. And I think the London people, the Joseph Rowntree Foundation and the London employment people, they're looking into that, because at the moment carers are only paid about £62 an hour, which isn't really good. And we're looking into a living wage for all carers. Issues around social care are relevant to people, especially carers, given the lack of support that carers receive from social care or healthcare, and their voice is not heard. There is an urgent need to address this issue that carers in the community face, especially people and mostly carers of women. So there's an inequality issue here. Carers' health is impacted when they are living in poverty due to the inequality that they face. And we have to remember, we are the hidden workforce in Britain, and we are never recognised. Further work must be done to build a consensus on carers' benefit, because I think it should be a decent working living wage, just like everybody else. And that is being talked about by the Advisory Board for Carers UK and Carers Trust and Joseph Rowntree. There's big research been happening, and the London Employment Strategies are currently doing work on this. And we will look forward to their recommendation, because I think it's about time the government value carers. We do save them a lot. We do save the government a lot of money, and I think we need to be valued. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Sarifa. Now we're going to welcome Nigel and Mike, who are going to talk about GDI, or Guaranteed Decent Income. And that's the core proposal at the centre of our plans for an improved system. And just to thank you all again for bearing with us while we had a few technical glitches at the start and working out how we manage hybrid, but I think we finally got there. So welcome to Nigel.
Right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your attendance at today's meeting. My name is Nigel. As I say, I'm one of the commissioners on the Commission on Social Security, and I've got a piece of paper in front of me which I'm going to need to refer to. But we've always said one of the principles is to make sure that people have enough money to live on. Universal credit does not do that, and it has created a lot of other problems. Sanctions is one of those big issues. Now, last year I did a video for the Commission, which is on our website if you wish to view that at any time. But I wish to give a slightly different message today with regards to sanctions to that on the website. The problem with sanctions is that it obviously then stops the benefit claimant from having any money. And our main one has always been for if somebody's a parent, they've obviously then not got any money to look after the children. So for instance, if you've got a young child who is still in nappies, you haven't got the money to go out and buy anything for them to use. Obviously no food, and it really does create some major problems. So we want to get rid of sanctions. Now, there are some people who will always try and fight the system, and when they are given certain tasks to do to make sure that they get their benefit, they repeatedly do not do those things. We haven't yet come up with a solution to what to do with those people, but we still believe that they should not actually be having their money taken away, as I say, for some of the reasons that have been given today and on the video. So we do need a new approach to what system we need. And we believe that on the Commission, we have come up with some really good proposals that if taken and acted upon, they will actually solve most, if not all of the problems. Anyway, Mike is going to continue with this, so I'm going to hand over to him.
Thanks very much for that, Nigel. And just a reminder to post any questions about the proposals today in the chat box or the Q&A box. I think we've had a few in the chat already. And now I'm pleased to introduce Mike, who is going to speak some more about GDI, or Guaranteed Decent Income.
That's it. They let me start my video up, so we're away. One of the cause that we've been working towards here is basically a guaranteed decent income. There'd be no conditionality or job search, no cap, no sanctions. I know there's a lot of love for the idea of a universal basic income in the being expressed in the workshops and things that we've done. And if you bear with us, some of the things that we're proposing would go a long way towards matching what a universal basic income would provide. We're looking towards setting the basic core benefits as an individual rate, not for couples, per person as the building block for it. We're aiming to match the Joseph Rowntree Foundation's work on minimum income standards. That it's a long-standing benchmark that's well accepted around, and it's definitely something to aim at, something we agree with as a thing. Initially, it'd be guaranteed decent income would be based on 50% of a minimum wage. So that for a single person comes out about £163.50 or so. You'll have to give me a bit with numbers. I get a little bit number blind when I'm looking at digits. So based on 2 people, that would be £327, which meets the minimum income standard for the Joseph Rowntree Foundation benchmark. A single household, however, they'd get a £63.50 supplement, and that would bring them up to the minimum income standard of £227 for a single person. So it's kind of a slightly different way of working towards it, but the actual threshold numbers come out. We're aiming at the same thing basically. We'd expect that this would be means tested. I know there's a little bit of a resistance on how things would be means tested at the moment, but I think what we'd be proposing is that there's a better ethos to it that's more claimant centric and more considerate of people's feelings and people's circumstances. So it'd be a very light touch system, a bit like current tax self-assessment. Your view on that might differ, how light touch that is. And we'd be aiming at a wealth limit of about £85,000 as a maximum, where essentially there would be a cap. Again, there's a certain amount of consensus that people with inherited wealth or great wealth, it's unfair for them to be drawing out of the system. I know there's a pros and cons to that, but I think the 85,000 limit is a reasonable place to start the discussion from anyway. And that's kind of it for me. My mouth is really dry. You may know that I'm an anxiety sufferer, so this is not my natural environment, I'm afraid. But I'd say I recommend everything the Commission's done so far. I've found it a personal joy to be working with. Working towards consensus is a great thing. I'd recommend it. If there's nothing else to take away from it, that's definitely something that you can all work with each other. And if I can pass on, I think we've got a VT from Catherine, one of the other commissioners, and I'll leave you for the afternoon. Take care, everybody. I might see you in the chat afterwards. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, Mike. I think we can all agree that you smashed that as always. And for anyone who'd like to look back over our proposed numbers and ideas, they've been put on our website, and hopefully you will have seen the link in the chat for that, which we'll post again. But if you want to type it into Google, it's commissionoonsocialsecurity.org. But we will also add that in our email round to everyone. And now, providing this link works okay, we're going to share a video from one of our commissioners, Catherine Hale, who's going to speak about our proposal for child benefit. I appreciate that sharing a video isn't accessible to everyone. We are balancing the needs of our own disabled commissioners, who we're really pleased can contribute in a way that works for them today. So if everything goes well, you'll now see a video from Catherine Hale about child benefit. It might just take a minute or two.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I've been a commissioner since the start of the project in 2018. I'm also the founder and director of Chronic Illness Inclusion. I have lived experience of claiming disability benefits going back very many years as a result of chronic illness, and this included a period of time as a disabled lone parent. So I've experienced many aspects of the social security system, as well as see it change over time. I was excited then to have the opportunity to join the Commission to help shape a more empowering system and bring it up to date with the times we live in. I'm pleased to tell you about one of the aspects of our proposals that concerns households with children. The guaranteed decent income, which is the main bedrock of our proposals, would make sure everyone has enough money to live. But our first principle says there also needs to be support for extra costs, like to do with disability and children. With children, rather than including support in the guaranteed decent income, there's already a very good option in the current system, and that's child benefit. Child benefit has lots of advantages. It's universal, which means you don't have to jump through hoops to qualify and prove that you're deserving, and there's less of the stigma that you get with means-tested benefits. It's simple to understand, and we know that the payment mainly goes to women. The only problem with child benefit is how low the rate is, as well as the introduction of the 2-child limit. You also get a lower amount for your second child. Thinking about how to address this, we found there was no magic formula for deciding how much child benefit should be. But looking at the cost of raising a child, it seemed to us that £50 a week is entirely justifiable. So that's our proposal. Child benefit should be £50 a week, and it should be the same rate for every child with no 2-child limit.
Hi there, my name's Kate Summers. I'm form part of the Commission's Secretariat, so I'm involved in supporting the work that Commissioners do at their request. In my day job, I work as a researcher at the London School of Economics. And what I'm going to talk about today is then, having had the guaranteed decent income introduced to you and the child benefit proposal introduced to you, Commissioners were then concerned about thinking about whether this would make people better off and how many people across the country. So just quickly summarising what Mike and Nigel were telling you, the guaranteed decent income, the aim of that is to ensure that everyone gets the Joseph Rowntree Foundation's minimum income standard, which is a standard that's agreed as giving people enough to live on. And Mike summarised how that would be calculated, but just to repeat that the amount then per person would be £163.50 per week. So 2 people living together would get a guaranteed decent income of £327 a week. For people who are living by themselves, there would be a single householder supplement of £63 a week. So that would mean if you're a single householder, you would get £227 a week. So both of those figures meet the minimum income standard as calculated by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation. And then, as Catherine just said, child benefit of £50 a week per child would also be part of what you're receiving to recognise and to help with the additional costs of children. But then Commissioners were then concerned about checking that nobody was worse off under those proposals that they had put together. So then the Commission went ahead with commissioning some statistical modelling that was done by the Fraser Allender Institute at the University of Strathclyde. So this was using data that we have on families, households across the UK to understand what the effect of these proposals would be. So to run a sort of a simulation of what would happen if these proposals were actually made a reality. And so just to highlight briefly what we found with this modelling, and basically it overall points to a few areas where we want to do extra work as a commission. So we found that the guaranteed decent income and the child benefit proposals, if they were made a reality, they would make more than 30 million people better off. So that's an awful lot of people. That's over half of the UK population. But for some people, the guaranteed decent income, despite meeting the Joseph Rowntree Foundation's minimum income standard, in addition with the increased child benefit, it wouldn't be as much for some households as they are currently getting. And the modelling showed that about 500,000 people would be worse off than they currently are by 5% or more. So this was a concern for Commissioners, and discussions are ongoing about how this should be addressed. So one option, of course, is transitional protection. So you ensure that no one from their current circumstances is losing out and is receiving less, so they're protected with this amount that they're currently receiving. That's one option, but commissioners wanted to examine this further, and they were particularly concerned that it seemed that the area that needs to be thought more about is disabled people. So then further modelling was done, thinking about different disability options in relation to the guaranteed decent income. So modelling was requested for a GDI supplement, a disability supplement of £80, a child disability supplement of £29.74, and a higher rate child disability supplement of £92.86. I realise I'm saying a lot of numbers, which is kind of hard, I find, to keep track of when it's just being said verbally. But I guess to summarise, the key findings was that each of these additions would reduce the number of people worse off, but still not entirely. So with these disability supplements, there would still be a small number of households who have particular individual circumstances that wouldn't be addressed by these blanket additions that are being made. So there's further questions to be asked that the Commission wants to continue exploring. It might be that there needs to be an extra addition where more than one person in a household is disabled, that there's a higher rate there, or that there's an even higher rate in addition for disabled children. But we haven't commissioned the further modelling on that. So at the moment, we haven't explored the specifics. So just to summarise, the Commission's proposals of the guaranteed decent income and the child benefit of £50 does mean that 30 million people would be better off, but 500,000 people would be worse off by 5% or more. And the Commission doesn't want to leave it like that. It wants to work out how these people could also be protected, either through transitional protection or by thinking about what supplements would look like and how these could be designed to address the needs of this group. So there needs to be more work for this specific subsection of the population. Thank you very much, everyone.
Many thanks to Kate for talking to the impact that GDI and increased child benefit would have. And now hopefully we'll go to a video from Ellen Clifford, who's going to speak about our proposals for a new extra cost benefit to replace it.
My name is Ellen Clifford, and I'm really pleased to be involved with the work of the Commission on Social Security. Personal Independence Payment, PIP, isn't working. So commissioners have developed proposals for a new extra costs benefit to replace PIP. And I'm now going to go through the framework for that new benefit that we've developed. Purpose: a non-means tested benefit to cover the extra costs that deaf and disabled people face due to illness, stroke, impairment. Design: in full co-production with deaf and disabled people who are properly paid for their time. Principles: annual uprating. No one to be left financially worse off. As little burden on claimants as possible for assessments and review. Awarded based on need, not top-down targets. No risk that anyone will be left with nothing at any point. Assessments and process. No separate care and mobility components. Assessment to look at support needs across the following areas. Staying healthy, including managing medication. Keeping safe. Personal care needs. Running a home, for example, keeping it clean, doing laundry, managing money, bills, etc. Eating and drinking. Social activities and maintaining relationships. Work and learning opportunities. Caring responsibilities. Making decisions and having control of my life. Mobility. Going out, travel planning and following a journey. Communication. Individualised assessments to be based on claimants' self-identified support needs and testimony. Collaborative approach to decision making. Assessors and decision makers to have an in-depth training and understanding of both the social model of disability and also to have impairment and illness awareness. More paper-based decisions. If decisions can't be made just on paper evidence, then assessment venue and type of assessment to be made according to the claimant's own choosing. Lifetime awards available. All forms and communication to be available in accessible formats. Free advocacy provided by user-led services. Fast, accessible and transparent appeals process. Take account of a person's full circumstances, such as the need for a buddy when travelling or the multiple access barriers that deaf people face. Regarding payments for the new benefit, payments should be at 3 different rates. Lower, £83.70 per week. Middle, £152.15 per week. Higher, £230.77 per week. Lifetime awards to be available and there to be longer gaps between reviews.
So that was great to hear from Ellen Clifford about the ideas for a new extra cost benefit that would replace PIP. And now we're very fortunate to hear from Rosa Morris, who's going to talk through the Commission's ethos and the areas we identified as really important links with our work. Rosa, over to you.
Hi everyone, thank you Ellen. I'm Rosa and I'm part of the Commission Secretariat with Kate and Michael. I also have experience of being a long-term claimant of both incapacity benefit and employment and support allowance. And I currently work as a welfare rights advisor. As Ellen just mentioned, I'm going to talk about links to other areas and the importance of ethos. So starting with the links to other areas, from the Commission's work and experience, it is clear that benefits are being used to try and deal with problems caused by failings in other policy areas. For example, housing support. The housing system is completely broken and it is structural problems that need addressing to fix it. In the short term, housing benefit could return to address the housing needs of both those of working age and pensioners. However, the only real solution is a large-scale programme of building and creating social housing and addressing the nonsense that is so-called affordable housing to make sure that everybody has access to decent, secure housing. People not being able to afford their housing costs is currently taken as an individualised problem rather than a structural one, and no one should ever be left in a situation where they are at risk of losing their home due to deductions or sanctions from benefits. As such, housing support costs should be seen as a housing issue, not a benefits issue. Another example of links to other areas is employment support. And we propose that there should be an entirely new system of community-based employment support, which means if somebody needs support to get into employment, this should be available according to what support they need, and it shouldn't be linked to benefit entitlement, meaning that there is no threat of losing vital income through sanctions. This means that employment support is a labour market issue, not a benefits one. And now on to ethos, which is that one of the most important things that needs to underpin anything in a new social security system is the ethos of the department providing it. It needs to be based on dignity and respect, which I know we've returned to throughout today's proposals. And Mike mentioned this earlier, but an example of how such an ethos could work in practice is through means testing. So that the means testing could be applied in a very different way, that currently it can feel like an interrogation and a punishment and come with a lot of shame, but instead it could be done as a kind of light touch basis with the self-assessment tax process that we currently have. So the Commission is making proposals, the proposals we've presented, but this is also about a completely new vision for social security based on the principles that Latoya explained earlier, meaning that everybody has enough money to live on and get support with extra costs. But it is also a system that doesn't stigmatise and scapegoat people, but instead tries to treat people, as coming back to our theme, with dignity and respect. And importantly, it is a system which is developed, designed and implemented in partnership with people who are affected by the policies themselves. And I'll pass you back over to Ellen. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rosa, for explaining our ethos and the links with other areas. We have got quite a lot of questions come in now, which is good. So we're going to go for a break until 3:10. So we're going to turn our cameras off, but we'll be back soon to hopefully answer any questions or comments you have. So if you've got any more, just feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A. And just to say, if there's any that we can't get to today, we will make sure that we answer them after the meeting and send it round. Thanks, everyone. See you in a bit. Okay, we're back from the break. Thanks, everyone. And thank you all for posting loads of great questions. There's probably too many to get through now. So we picked out some that we'll answer now, but we have got all the questions written down, and then we'll circulate a note to everyone who's attended with those questions and our answers. So first up, we've got a question, how can all of this be afforded? And we're going to go to Latoya now to answer that one. If Latoya's there. Okay, we're still waiting for, oh, there we go, Latoya, brilliant. Latoya, so the question is, how can all of this be afforded?
So the question was, how is it possible to pay for all the different proposals that have been raised? We actually believe within the Commission that social security is an investment in people. And we also believe that the governments have choices and power, and they can make choices as to how to spend money, how to borrow money, how to make more money. And they also have an option regarding taxes. They could raise the taxes for people, high earners and wealthy people, and in that way they would have enough money to pay for the proposals that we've brought up. And within the public consultation, there was a strong view and strong support on the proposals that we've raised and the way that the money can be raised. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Thanks very much, Latoya. So the next question is, what's going to happen next? We're going to go to Osman next.
Well, hello, everyone. Right, what's going to happen next is the question. Well, after today, we will reflect on all the comments and questions that have been raised. We will then produce a final white paper style document. The white paper will be launched at an event late 2021, early 2022. An organisation called Equally Ours are experts in strategic communications. Equally Ours are doing a project called Reframing the Debate on Social Security. The Equally Ours project will provide language, metaphors and so on to help persuade people to support the Commission's proposals. Based on the Commission's white paper and the work by Equally Ours, the aim is to start a major influencing effort in 2022. I hope that will cover all your questions on that issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Osmond. And now we're going to go to Mike for a bumper round of questions. So I'm going to say them all now, and then Mike, just get through as many as you can. So with pension age rising, has the panel recognised that those affected by the changes will be classed as working age depending on the age? Secondly, many unpaid carers do not recognise themselves as carers and see it as their duty to care for their loved ones and not always aware of their entitlements. Minimum income guarantee would help people who are carers. Next question, would GDI figures be weekly? And then the final question for now, Question on the guaranteed minimum income. How would adults living in shared houses, houses of multiple occupation, bedsits, temporary accommodation in hotels or B&Bs be counted? As single householders, many people now pay rent on a room only basis with shared access to kitchen and bathroom. So Mike, over to you to do what you can. Thanks.
I mean, with pension ages rising, the goalpost shifting year on year, that can be a bit of an issue. We're really trying to focus on a completely different approach. The guaranteed decent income would apply to everybody from age 18 plus up to whatever the retirement age happens to be at that point. Hopefully with a sort of seamless transition, so nobody on past retirement age would be worse off. There'd be no kind of bump or discontinuity on those figures. I think some other people are going to come with some other comments, but just to clarify, when we were talking about GDI earlier on, the figures would be weekly. Yep, that's definitely the weekly figure, not not any kind of other salami slicing. I know that there's an element of universal credit, the way they pitch the payment dates to make it look a little bit better than maybe it really is. Adults in shared houses, I think yes, the payments would be totally individual, so that it would be like the single person thing. I think we maybe have a few extra wrinkles to iron out on that one, because I noticed in the question there was a huge range of possible circumstances, and that's where it starts getting kind of a little bit into the messier end of what I can manage on a quick Q&A. Once more to reiterate, we will be going through all the questions in a little bit more detail, and we'll be sending everybody a digest of the answers that they want. Yeah, we're not skipping anything. Yeah, we're not dodging anything here. We're just kind of going to be coming to you all in due course. Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Mike, for taking all of those. And as we said, we have written down all of the questions from today, and we will be sending around all of our answers, as there were just too many for us to get through today. And if you've got any more questions or any other points to raise, if you want to email Michael Orton on the email that you booked a place for this event today. And in a minute or so, we're going to hear a final message from our Commissioner, Barry. Hopefully, if the tech is working soon, the joys of hybrid events.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? I hope you can. I just want to take the time and the opportunity to thank some people that have been part of the support team along with the commissioners. So I'd like to thank Michael Orton, who's been arranging all the meetings, all the sub meetings and the committee meetings. I'd like to thank a big thank you to Trust for London for funding the event. Sorry, funding the event. And first of all, we'd like to thank you to Ellen for kind of for all the kind of chairing and there's probably people that I've missed out, so forgive me, but yeah, just thank you to all the support team, but on behalf of the commissioners. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Barry, for that. And thanks again to everyone for joining today. We really appreciate you coming along. As I said, we were a bit taken aback by the number of people who were interested in this event, and we have tried to make it work for a bigger audience. But we will be doing a formal launch event in the coming months. So please watch this space if you have any feedback on today, because we'd love to learn from our first ever hybrid event. But I think Barry said the thank yous much better than I ever could. But yeah, just to reiterate, a huge thanks to all of our commissioners for all of their work so far. A big thanks to Trust for London and to Toynbee Hall for very kindly supporting us with this event today, as well as London Challenge Poverty Week for letting us be part of their programme. And of course, a big thanks to our BSL interpreters, Sam and Claire. So I think that's it for today. I've probably forgotten something, but thank you all for joining. We really, really appreciate it.